Good evening. Hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination. News, newsmakers, talking points Friday night. And we've got plenty on the show tonight, including the mother of all battles. Donald Trump has taken on America's and the world's most prestigious university, Harvard. Who will gain in this big battle? We'll have special guests joining us from the United States. Also, Supriya Sule will be joining us on India's global outreach. She's off as the leader of one of the delegations that's going across the world to tell the India story. But the big story we're getting, Donald Trump versus Harvard University. A showdown described as the mother of all battles has now escalated. Harvard University has now gone ahead and sued the Donald Trump administration. Harvard University's action comes a day after Donald Trump's administration said they were banning the enrolling of international students. Remember, there are hundreds of international students, including Indian students, studying in one of the world's most prestigious universities. So a high-stakes showdown is now probably going to go to the courts of the United States, unfolding between US President Donald Trump and Harvard University. Trump has accused the university of ideological bias, of anti-Semitism and silencing conservative voices. At the heart of the clash are claims of campus censorship and broader questions about free speech in American campuses. Our top story today is about Harvard University taking on Donald Trump. Can they stop the American president where the rest of the world seems powerless to do so? Take a look.
Well, thank you very much. We have some important signings today.
The President of the United States promised a golden era, but that vision now seems to come with exclusions. The latest, a shockwave hitting one of America's most prestigious institutions, Harvard University.
She's been incredible. She's very upset with Harvard. They have $53 billion in a fund, and yet they want more grants. And it looks like we're not going to be giving them any more grants, right, Linda? And, a grant is at our discretion, and they're really not behaving well, so it's too bad.
In a move sending tremors through the academic world, the Donald Trump administration has revoked Harvard's ability to enroll international students. Harvard calls it illegal, retaliatory, and deeply damaging. This escalation is part of a larger pressure campaign. The administration accuses the Ivy League giant of fostering violence, anti-Semitism, and alleged links to the Chinese Communist Party. The tipping point? Harvard's refusal to hand over visa data on foreign students. Now, the university has been handed a 3-day ultimatum. Cough up 5 years of records or face the consequences. This could displace nearly a quarter of its student body. For Indian students, the hit is direct. 788 currently study at Harvard, but now they will all be forced to transfer to other universities in the US, especially those admitted in 2025, with their dreams disrupted, futures upended. In response, Harvard University has sued the Trump administration within 24 hours. The lawsuit and the letter issued by Dr. Ellen M. Garber, Harvard's president, signified a dramatic escalation of the battle between the administration and the school. The university accused the Trump administration of exerting clear retaliation for Harvard exercising its First Amendment rights to control Harvard's governance, curriculum, and the ideology of its faculty and students. This isn't just policy. This is the reshaping of a legacy, and Harvard may never be the same again. Bureau Report, India Today.
Harvard versus the US president. This could be the mother of all battles. Joining me now, two special guests. Professor Irfan Nuruddin is professor at Georgetown University, one of America's leading universities. Edward Luce, editor of Financial Times, has just brought out a best-selling book, a biography of Zbigniew Brzezinski. Congratulations. It's on the New York Times bestseller list, Ed. Good to have both of you on the show. Let's get straight into this Harvard versus President battle, Ed. Why don't you take off first? What are we seeing? Is this Trump now trying to take vengeance on America's and, dare I say, the world's most prestigious university because they simply weren't willing to fall in line?
Essentially, that's it. I mean, they wouldn't bend the knee to Trump. When initially a few weeks ago, the Trump administration tried to take over control of its admissions policies and indeed of its curriculum, um, and cut a ton of money, billions of dollars of federal research funds. Harvard sued. So that, was strike one in Trump's book. There are several federal investigations now of Harvard on the allegation that it's what Trump calls a woke madrasa, that it's somehow a Maoist indoctrination camp. And I think the real reason for this is that it's real red meat to the base. I mean, Harvard is not beloved by middle America. It's seen as very elitist, and this is for Trump all very good politics.
But isn't it also, you're saying, when the US president calls arguably the world's most prestigious university a woke madrasa, I mean, what is he signaling? Surely you're not going to make America great again across the world by saying we're not going to allow foreign students, for example, to enter Harvard, and you're going to call it a woke madrasa. So is Donald Trump somewhere losing the plot, according to you, Ed?
I mean, he is the destruction to America's brand, to its research capabilities, to its economic innovation, to its attractiveness as a destination is incalculable. This is a huge self-inflicted wound on America. But the way Trump thinks, this sort of quite reptilian sort of side of his brain, is that people who look down on me will be punished. And I am acting on behalf of the millions out there who feel looked down upon or condescended to by America's educational elites. And nobody, none of them care about these well-connected foreigners, Indians, Chinese, others, Brits, who are studying at Harvard. No tears will be shed for them. That's essentially Trump's mindset.
And it's interesting you're saying that, because the fact is that we are told that Donald Trump wanted his son to desperately get into Harvard. Didn't quite get in, but that's, that just shows where Donald Trump comes from. But Professor Nuruddin, how worrying is it? You've got a lot of Indian students in a university like Georgetown. If this happens to Harvard, it could happen to universities across America. Hundreds of Indian students, their future could be at stake. How worrying is it when the US president says, I'm not going to allow any foreign student enrollment anymore in a university like Harvard? It could have a cataclysmic effect, presumably right down the line.
It is absolutely terrifying, Rusty, both for the existential survival of American universities that rely on the incredible talent of international students from India, as you point out, but also from China, from all over the world. I mean, one of the things that makes America truly the envy of the higher education landscape globally is that it has become the best higher education space in the world. I mean, if you look at the world's best 100 universities, 500 universities, a disproportionate number of them, literally 90% of them, are located in the United States, and they are fueled by the incredible talent that flows here every year from all over the world. And of course, that talent historically has stayed in America disproportionately, contributing then to innovation. There's no coincidence that half of the founders of startups in Silicon Valley, that the CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies are people who came to America from other parts of the world to study here and then stay and work here. So it is existential. And I think higher education understands Harvard as being the tip of the spear over here, that if they can do it to Harvard, they can do it to every university that they want to. And as Ed correctly says, this is retribution. This is not based on any genuine claim of damage caused by Harvard. This is simply retribution because Harvard refused to let Trump bully them into submission. And so every university that cares about its own academic freedom is going to say, if we stand up for our values, this is exactly what's going to happen.
But Professor Nuruddin, when Trump takes, when he gave an explanation for it, or when his officials gave it, said that these universities have become hubs of anti-Semitism, referring to the protests that have taken place in these universities over the Palestine situation, that they've encouraged anti-Semitism on their campuses. How would you respond to it? Your university also saw protests over Gaza. is it that these universities are being put on notice by the American president? If you have these kind of protests on campuses, then prepare to face the wrath of the administration.
That is exactly right. But we want to be very careful over here. What the Trump administration and a certain faction of, let's call it the pro-Israel lobby in the United States have attempted to do is make any criticism of American foreign policy vis-a-vis Israel equated with anti-Semitism. No university worth its salt has any sympathy or any tolerance for anti-Semitism, not Georgetown, not Harvard, not anyone. It is probably the case that in many universities, universities have been slow to act decisively when genuine cases of anti-Semitism have happened on campus. And, unfortunately, these are quite common at university spaces. But this is a fine line between cracking down on perceived anti-Semitism and protecting the right of free speech on a college campus. So it's a tough line to have. The notion that Trump has made himself the champion of Jewish people at the same time that he sits and has dinner with virulent anti-Semites, white nationalists in the United States, that he refers to Chuck Schumer, the Democratic Majority Leader, a Jewish person, and says he is not Jewish, right? The notion that Trump decides who is actually a real Jew and who isn't, who is actually pro-Israel and who isn't, needs to be rejected on the face of it. But yes, your point is absolutely right, that what Trump has successfully done is equate pro-Palestine, anti-US foreign policy vis-a-Israel protests on college campuses as being the equivalent of anti-Semitism, and saying those of universities that have refused to crack down on these are therefore prima facie guilty of anti-Semitism and therefore have to deal with the wrath of the United States federal government.
Ed Luce, Harvard's soft power, much like Oxford and Cambridge in the United Kingdom, has existed over decades. It is a university that stretches back to centuries. Do you believe that Harvard has the capacity, given the fact that they have this huge endowment running into billions of dollars and this rich legacy, that they can fight back in a way that perhaps other American citizens can't? Therefore, this battle becomes a test case, not just for Harvard University, but indeed for America's ability to, in a way, stop presidential overreach.
Yeah, if Harvard with an endowment of roughly $50 billion, which is, bigger than the GDP of many countries, if Harvard doesn't have the firepower to stand up to these blatantly illegal assaults on its independence, on its free speech, and on its status as a private institution, then everybody else might as well pack it in and go home. So it has to be standing up. And you remember, of course, the first target of Trump was the Columbia University, and they did fold. They acceded to almost all the demands and got nothing for it. So it's not as if he's incentivizing sort of people to cooperate and then calling off the dogs. Columbia is now under his thumb. As regards the weaponization of anti-Semitism and Trump accusing Harvard of teaching anti-Semitism, I think the rule of thumb that with Trump, accusation is actually confession is probably a better way of decoding this, because the far right, the genuine anti-Semites, the Holocaust deniers, the people who are genuinely motivated by hate, are much more potent on the right around Trump and in MAGA world than on the left, where, you go to somewhere like Harvard, a very high share of the faculty and of students are Jewish. And I know Jewish students there, and I know Jewish academics there. Some are worried. Some say this is really overblown, but nobody for a second thinks that Trump actually cares about anti-Semitism. This is this is a pretext for an assault on institutions that he resents.
Do you believe he can get away with it, Ed Luce? Do you believe the President of the United States, arguably the most powerful person in the world, can get away with clamping down on America's most powerful, or dare I say the world's most powerful or certainly well-endowed university?
I think he could. I mean, if he's serious, the powers at the disposal of a president, especially the expanded definition that Trump has, then yes, he can destroy countries if he wishes. So institutions shouldn't be too hard. Harvard doesn't have an army. If he wants to destroy Harvard, no court is going to stop him.
Can I just ask you then, Professor Nuruddin, hearing that from Ed Luce, that no court can stop him if he's determined to, in a way, quash Harvard, what does that mean for Indian students, not just at Harvard, but across American universities? What would your advice be for Indian students who are planning to come to American universities or indeed are in American universities today?
That's a very difficult question. I will say, maybe just because I have to believe it, I do think that the courts are going to stop him on his attack on Harvard, and I think that the courts are going to reject and find illegal this notion that Harvard cannot enroll international students. One of the things that we have seen over and over is that Trump attempts to crack down on American institutions are slowly being pushed back on, not as fast and definitely not as comprehensively as we would like. So I share Ed's pessimism. The state of the world is not rosy right now. But
so what should students do as Harvard pushes back? As Harvard pushes back, should Indian students just wait to see how this plays out?
Well, I think there are two things that we should be doing if you're, an Indian student or a parent of an Indian student who aspires to study abroad. One is to consider the whole global landscape of higher education institutions. For as much as I said about American higher education being the envy of the world, there are really incredible institutions all over the world, and of course one hopes in India as well, that could also be destinations of study. I think if you are a student over here, you have to be very, very savvy about your use of social media. The less the better, because we know that they're using any pretext to cancel visas. Definitely any participation in protest activity should be really, really considered deeply. I don't want to suggest that you shouldn't do it, but I think you want to be very careful and very sort of wise about what you choose to put your name to in public. And finally, they're talking now about removing OPT altogether, the optional practical training that has typically been the transition for international students, including most Indian students, into the American workforce. We know that the H-1B program is incredibly under attack. And so I think the other thing that Indian students and parents of Indian students need to consider is whether or not the investment in an American education is worth it if the long-term job prospects in America are increasingly vanishing. And that's a very hard value proposition.
Those are very troubling words indeed, both from you, Professor Nuruddin, and earlier from you, Ed Luce. Donald Trump, out of control, perhaps being vengeful towards Harvard, being reckless, some would say, but that is Donald Trump. Will he get away with it, or will Harvard push back? As we said at the outset, it's the mother of all battles. I appreciate Ed Luce, Professor Nuruddin, for shedding light on that story for our viewers. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Now, that's not the only battle. There's, of course, the battle domestically. Harvard versus Trump in the United States. Here, it's the political war of words that continues to escalate over Operation Sindoor. Leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, continuing with another blistering attack on the Prime Minister, claiming that the Prime Minister's blood boils only in front of cameras. This was a reference to the Prime Minister's statements on Khoon and Sindoor. Today, Rahul Gandhi also asked External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar why no country had backed us against Pakistan, even going to the extent of saying that India's foreign policy has collapsed. The BJP has hit back, its MP Nishikant Dubey invoking a 1991 agreement between a Congress-supported government of India and Pakistan, where both countries had agreed to exchange information about attacks with each other. And Dubey claimed that stern action needs to be taken against Congress. Listen in to the war of words.
मोदी की नसों में लहू नहीं, गरम सिंदूर बह रहा है.
After Prime Minister Narendra Modi's fiery speech in Bikaner, leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi has launched a scathing attack. He asked the Prime Minister why his blood boils only in front of cameras and why he bowed before the US President. Rahul Gandhi posed 3 questions to External Affairs Minister S. Shankar and claimed that India's foreign policy has collapsed.
शौर्य तो रुक गया हमारा. अरे शौर्य तो हम दिखाते, सेना पीओके को कब्जा करती तो शौर्य दिखाई दे रहा था हमारा. हमने तो पीओके पे कब्जा कर लिया था, बटन दब गया, हम रुक गए. पहलगाम के कातिलों को तो निकालना पड़ेगा, पहलगाम के कातिलों को जमीन के 7वीं पुष्ट से निकाल के लाना पड़ेगा। ट्रंप के गुलाम है क्या हम, या देश ट्रंप का गुलाम है क्या कि ट्रंप वहां से बटन दबा रहा है और हम यहां पे काम करेंगे? क्यों?
11 मई को डीजीएमओ भी थे और एयर मार्शल भारती जी भी थे, और उनसे यह सवाल मीडिया ने पूछा। उन्होंने कहा, वी आर इन अ कॉम्बैट सिनेरियो, इट इज नॉट प्रूडेंट फॉर अस टू आंसर दैट क्वेश्चन। 11 मई की बात है। और उसके बाद राहुल गांधी, जो कि पाकिस्तान से बातचीत करने में लगता है ज्यादा व्यस्त है कि कैसे भारत को कमजोर किया जाए, सेनाओं का मनोबल तोड़ा जाए, पूछते हैं, ये बताइए कितने फाइटर प्लेन भारत के गिरे हैं?
इस फायर की पहली घोषणा
Earlier, the Congress leader had cited a Jaishankar statement to ask why India informed Pakistan about the attack on terror hubs. BJP MP Nishikant Dubey responded to that criticism. Dubey referred to an agreement reached by the Congress-supported Chandrasekhar government and Pakistan in 1991, in which both nations had decided to exchange information on attacks and mobilization of forces.
आपने तो हाथ काट के लिख दिया कि हमारी आर्मी कहां डिप्लॉय होगी, आपकी नेवी कहां डिप्लॉय होगी, आपका एयरफोर्स कैसे फंक्शन करेगा, वो कैसे एक्सरसाइज करेगा। तो ये सारी बातें क्या देशद्रोह नहीं है? कांग्रेस ने वोट बैंक की पॉलिटिक्स के लिए देश के साथ धोखा नहीं किया कि उनको बांग्लादेशी वोट बैंक चाहिए, उनको पाकिस्तानी वोट बैंक चाहिए। भारत सरकार को इसके ऊपर जो है देशद्रोह का मुकदमा चालू करना चाहिए, और इस एग्रीमेंट के ऊपर जो एग्रीमेंट बनाने वाले थे, करने वाले थे, उनके ऊपर वो जिंदा है या नहीं जिंदा है वो उनका अपना सवाल है, लेकिन किस परिस्थिति में हुआ ये देश को बताना चाहिए और कांग्रेस के ऊपर एफआईआर करना चाहिए।
ये शायद अप्रैल 1991 का साइन किया हुआ अग्रीमेंट है। ये अग्रीमेंट पीस टाइम का है। पीस टाइम में गलतफहमी ना हो दो देशों की सेनाओं के बीच में, थल सेना, वायुसेना, जल सेना मूवमेंट से, उसके बारे में है। सर्वप्रथम जो राहुल गांधी जी कह रहे थे वही सच है। जयशंकर जी ने इन्फॉर्म किया पाकिस्तान को और उसकी पुष्टि खुद बीजेपी कर रही है। जिस अग्रीमेंट का वो हवाला दे रही है वो पीस टाइम का अग्रीमेंट है। जयशंकर जी ने जब वॉर लाइक सिचुएशन थी तब इन्फॉर्म किया था।
The war of words between the opposition and government over India-Pakistan tensions has been escalating day by day. With Piyush Mishra and Mausami Singh, Bureau Report, India Today.
Okay, let's turn from there to another story that's making the news. A bizarre incident has come to light from Karnataka's Haveri, where 7 gang rape accused after getting bail took out a road show. The procession, which began at the Haveri sub-jail, continued for about 25 kilometers. Soon, videos of the procession featuring motorcycles, cars, slogans and the accused flashing victory signs flooded social media. The road show was a clear violation of bail conditions and the police have now arrested 5 of the 7 accused. These men are accused of allegedly gang raping a woman in January 2024, were arrested, sent to judicial custody. After 17 months, they were released earlier this week. The police have arrested them for violating bail conditions.
Days after obtaining bail in a case of gang rape, the accused had celebrated in Haveri district. Immediately after the celebration, the video went viral. The police have taken cognizance of it. The investigating officer in the rape charges have approached the court, and what we get to learn through our police sources is that they have taken 5 accused into custody, and they will press more charges of victory celebration violating the bail orders. Remember, all these accused were arrested raping a girl in Haveri district. Hanagal police had recorded a statement from the victim.
Okay, let's go back to that story of the political war of words over Operation Sindoor. More delegations of all parties will be leaving tomorrow for different parts of the world. One of them is headed by the NCP leader Supriya Sule. She now joins me straight from a meeting that she's come out with the Ministry of External Affairs. Ms. Sule, appreciate your joining us. What is the big message that you are taking to the world along with the other delegations? What is the message that you're taking?
Well, Mr. Sardesai, it's a very clear and a crisp message that India stands united in these extraordinarily challenging times, and there will be zero tolerance against any terrorism anywhere in the world. And right now, they have hurt the soul of India. As a matter of fact, I will tell you there are two families from Pune. One lives even in my constituency. So for the last 1 month, I've been engaging with those families. You have no idea how devastated and scarred for life they are. So it's a
these are families, presumably, Ms. Sule, who lost their loved ones in Pahalgam.
Absolutely. I mean, the wife was telling me again the other day that she says it's been a month now. So every time I shut my eyes, the only face I see is the horrific moment when a husband was shot. I mean, it's been a month, but it's just awful for that family and all the families who've paid such a huge price. So the big, long message that we are all going with is...
Sorry, your audio, ma'am, your audio, ma'am. Yes. Can you hear me? Your audio, ma'am. Yeah, we're just trying to get your audio back, ma'am.
Did I lose you? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead now. Your big message is...
sound issue?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, ma'am. What is
I can't
the
hear
big...
you.
Yeah, what is
Sorry,
your big message,
ma'am?
ma'am?
I can't hear you clearly.
What is the big message you said you're taking?
I think the big message is clearly of peace. We want to go and tell the world how terribly India was hurt. There were innocent people who have lost their lives. And I think India has to stand up for what we believe in, which is peace. But at the same time, the world needs to know how extraordinarily well J&K was doing. There was peace and harmony in Kashmir. Global tourists were coming there, and we were really turning the corner. And this awful attack has been made on India, and how India is trying to fight it, but not at the cost of any country. This fight is only against terrorism. That's the limited scope of this entire 1-week program that we are all going out and reaching on this outreach program.
You said your aim will be to focus on terror, not on a specific country, but it's Pakistan that's sponsoring terror. Will you all not go and expose Pakistan's and its role in terror?
Of course. It's what we will say. It's India's stand. What has happened, and we are going with proof to show to the world that how Pakistan has supported terrorists, and we have clear evidence. We will be putting it on the table, and with very honest intentions of stopping global terrorism is the agenda on this entire 1-week travel plans.
But I must ask you this, but while you're saying this, your ally in Maharashtra, the Congress, indeed nationally, is taking a very different line. Every day they are raising questions of the External Affairs Minister of the Government of India, saying we want a special session of Parliament. There are certain issues where our foreign policy has failed. How do you explain this? You're saying we are collectively united and going abroad, including with Congress members. Rahul Gandhi and the Congress have a very different view.
Well, as a matter of fact, I would like to share with you that there are two honorable Congress members traveling with me. We are in the same delegation. My very learned colleague Manish Tiwari ji is on the delegation, and so is very senior and experienced leader like Anand Sharma ji. So we are all going together, not as parties. We are going as proud Indians. We are together in it for India. And I'm really happy that across party lines, we're all going to be together in this mission.
No, but you're saying you are going across party lines to the world, but domestically we are finding this ugly war of words. Make sense of that.
Well, Mr. Sardesai, you will have to ask this question to the Congress party. I don't think it'd be fair for me to reply on behalf of them, because two of the Congress members are with me. We are traveling together. We were together in the briefing, and several other Congress leaders who are so learned and experienced, we were together at the briefing today.
And in overall, therefore, do you believe, because the NCP has said we are not interested in a special session, there's a belief that the NCP is towing the government line. How do you respond to those who say NCP is...
No, I would like to make two lines very, very clear that our leader, Honorable Shri Sharad Pawar, made it very, very clear. He made two statements right at the very beginning that when it's India's issue as India and it's about a global stand, it's India first, the country first. So when it's foreign policy, we stand by India. Any terrorist attack on India, we support the government, whichever it's the government of the time. That's point number one. And second, he's very clear that this is not the time to debate this issue in Parliament. Right now, we stand united as one India. So Mr. Sharad Pawarji made a clear statement that NCP-SP does not support any statement now. Let us tide over this entire time. Let's get over this entire Operation Sindoor. After that, when session sits, we can all deliberate, we can discuss, we can debate, we can argue. Because in a vibrant democracy like ours, every voice must be respected. But this is not the time because India needs to be together in this challenge against this terrorism that we are facing. So Mr. Sharad Pawarji has made it very, very clear that we will not take any political stand till this entire operation is over.
So you're saying the operation is still on, so questions of accountability of the government, of security lapses that that the Congress party or Rahul Gandhi in particular is raising, you're saying this is not the right time to do that?
Yeah, and the entire opposition stands united because in the all-party meeting, we all said this in the all-party meeting. So we were very clear. Every party was represented there. And we all in one voice said we went one step ahead. And we even told the government that from both sides, be it UPA or NDA, both of us at this time should not put any posts on social media which could be intimidating or hurtful or anything which could be out of line in this time where we want to show the world that India stands together, united, and there'll be zero tolerance against any terrorist attack on India by anybody.
Okay. Supriya Sule, you've given us, in a sense, where your party position is and importantly, what's the message you're taking to the world. I appreciate you joining me on what's been a very busy day for you and the other leaders going on that delegation. Thank you very much for joining me. Supriya Sule telling us that they're going as a united delegation. Remember though, domestically, the political war of words continues. That is India for you. Okay, let's turn from there to the other big conflict. We've discussed Harvard versus Trump. We've discussed the political war of words. Let's now turn to a conflict that is getting more and more difficult to handle by the day because of the humanitarian crisis. As Israel's offensive on Gaza continues, the humanitarian situation is worsening. According to Gaza's health ministry, 60 people have been killed and 185 injured just in the last 24 hours. The ministry also says that 29 children and elderly people have died from starvation-related causes in just 2 days. In fact, thousands more are at risk due to severe food shortages. Earlier, 15 World Food Programme and 8 trucks were looted last night in southern Gaza while delivering food to bakeries. It's not just food. Gaza's health system is also on the brink. The World Health Organization says 94% of hospitals damaged or destroyed. Only 19 of 36 hospitals still working. Gazans, according to the UN Secretary General, are going through the cruelest phase of this cruel conflict. According to a Gaza ministry, 53,800 people have been killed, over 1 lakh injured, many of them children. In fact, it's the starvation of children that's possibly the worst aspect of this growing humanitarian crisis. Some of that aid is finally reaching Gaza, though. But what is the situation on the ground? How bad is it? I'm joined now by a special guest. Francesca Albanese is UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights in Palestine. Appreciate your joining us, ma'am. In your reports, you've stated there are reasonable grounds to believe Israel's actions in Gaza may constitute genocide. You've cited violations of the UN Genocide Convention. Give us a sense of the humanitarian crisis brewing in Gaza.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. Let me explain to the people in India who will be listening to me, to my voice, probably for the first time, why I believe that Israel has been committing acts of genocide for 20 months now. Because what constitutes genocide is in the genocide conventions, and there are certain crimes like acts of killing, creations of conditions of life calculated to destroy, or the infliction of severe bodily or mental harm, which are already illegal conducts themselves. These conducts constitute genocide when committed with intent to destroy a group as a whole or in part as such. And the Palestinians have been targeted as such. This is how 60,000 people have been literally slaughtered. Doesn't matter if they were children, doctors, or journalists. Everyone has been killed, the 70%. So let's start unpacking your question. Since the beginning of this assault on Gaza, which has been presented as genocidal from the beginning, because Israeli leaders spoke of people in Gaza as there are no innocents, not even children. They are human animals. They ordered the closing of provisions of water, electricity, food, fuel and medicines as they started carpet bombing the Gaza Strip. And so this is already illegal. There is the International Court of Justice already 20 years ago told Israel that it cannot wage wars against the Palestinians in the occupied Palestinian territory. Even when there are security threats, and October 7 was awful for the Israelis, for sure. But the point is that Israel occupies illegally the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. And in Gaza, the humanitarian situation now is catastrophic because after 20 months of carpet bombing without, with the exception of not even 2 months of ceasefire, where fire has still been used against the people of Gaza, 80% of the civilian infrastructure is gone. There are no more buildings for the people of Gaza, because whatever has not been leveled to the ground has been severely damaged and is not usable. All universities have been destroyed. The health system has been decimated, and people are starving. This is the reality right now. Since the March 2025, people are literally starving in Gaza.
Can I ask you then, what is the solution? Where is the solution? The problem, as you say, is getting worse by the day. But is there a solution you see, ma'am?
I said it. It's about respecting international law, which is something that I rarely hear politicians talking about. You know what? It's interesting. This is the era of human rights and international law. We have been spending 80 years cementing the foundations of an international system regulated by rules. And these rules are being completely leveled to the ground, are turned into rubble as we speak. And there are people who are complaining and are revolting, they are protesting against that, and they are also repressed. So my hope is, I have two hopes. One is that the people from all over will continue to protest and put pressure on their government to change their politics toward Israel-Palestine. The second is to finally see a principled leader emerging, because I'm sure these leaders are there, like there was in the anti-apartheid South Africa, Nelson Mandela, and so many others. We need a new Nelson Mandela, and can be anywhere, can be in India, can be in Europe, there can be many, but this is what we need: someone who understands that the only way out and the only way to grant peace and security to both Israelis and Palestinians is stopping waging wars. You build peace with peace. So end the genocide today and end arming the genocide, end the occupation by the end of September, because this is what the International Court of Justice and the General Assembly have said. And meanwhile, states and businesses should not trade with the illegal occupation, and then end apartheid. This is what's to be done.
The world needs, Francesca, another Nelson Mandela, wherever he or she comes from. We need peace above all else. We need the hostages released, and we need peace in Gaza. We'll wait and see, Francesca, whether that happens, but I appreciate you joining us and giving us a sense of just how bad the situation is in Gaza. Let's turn to our final segment. It's an only in India story today. It's a scam so bizarre, it sounds like a movie plot. Dozens of people dying multiple times, all thanks to snake bites, but only on paper. Behind the morbid math is a massive fraud, and a clerk is at the center of it. From Madhya Pradesh, Sioni, a scam has broken all records of corruption. It's tonight's only in India story. Take a look.
The snakes and humans of Sioni district in Madhya Pradesh have a special relationship. Listen carefully. Dwarka Bai died 29 times from snake bites. Shri Ram died 28 times due to snake bites. A total of 47 people were killed 280 times by snake bites in the district. Each time they died, someone pocketed 4 lakh rupees. This is the story of an unusual scam worth 11 crore 26 lakh rupees. And yes, the snakes had no role in the scam, and it was pulled off by a clerk and his associates.
बार बार हम लोग ने जो रिकॉर्ड ट्रेस किया है उसमें हमको पोस्टमार्टम रिपोर्ट, डेथ सर्टिफिकेट वगैरह बार बार मांगने पे भी उपलब्ध नहीं हो पाए थे। हमने तो अपना जांच प्रतिवेदन तैयार करके शासन को भी भेज दिया है और साथ में सिवनी कलेक्टर को भी प्रेषित कर दिया है। अब इसमें एफआईआर और अन्य जो विभागीय कार्रवाई है वो सिवनी कलेक्टर के माध्यम से ही होंगी।
This entire scam was executed between 2019 and 2022. The fraud came to light in November in an audit done by the Revenue Department. Sachin Dahayat, a clerk at the Kiolari Tehsil office, allegedly sanctioned relief in the name of 279 people by showing their death due to snake bite, drowning and lightning. He allegedly got the money transferred from the government to bank accounts of his relatives and acquaintances. The police named 37 people as accused. 21 people, including the main accused, Sachin Dahayat, have been arrested.
सचिन दाहयत को तत्काल उसी समय विभागीय जांच कर टर्मिनेट भी कर दिया गया था, उसको गिरफ्तार भी किया गया था और अभी भी वो जेल में ही है। साथ ही उस समय लगभग 37 आरोपी और बनाए गए थे और 21 की गिरफ्तारी भी की गई थी। तो जो वित्त विभाग द्वारा दिया गया जांच प्रतिवेदन है उस पर नियमानुसार कार्रवाई की जा रही है।
The Finance Department's investigation has recommended legal action against the then SDM Amit Singh Bamrolia and 4 tehsildars posted in Kiolari during 2019 to 2022. With Puneet Kapoor, Bureau Report, India Today.
Snake bite scam. Sometimes the ingenuity of our scamsters. I'm going to leave you there tonight. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe, have a good day. Time to retire. Bye for now.